Hello, lovelies. This is Lazy Fox Creates, a podcast about the crafting experience. I'm your host, Laura. Last week we talked about parallel play, and this week we're going to talk about kind of the opposite, which is crafting in solitude. This is the way that I usually do things. I think I usually prefer it because it's my time to be alone and either to think or to get lost in music or to catch up on some podcasts, which I'm always catching up on podcasts because my playlist is literally 1,029 episodes. I'm subscribed to like 700 podcasts. Don't tell anyone. I mean, I don't listen to all of them, but I'm subscribed to them. I like to be on Twitch a lot when I'm crafting, but this is very distracting because then I always have to comment on things. And it takes me a lot longer to make things than it normally would, but also I like my friends, so it's kind of worth it. Unless I'm doing something that makes my hands very dirty, like dyeing leather or using air dry clay, and then I can't, and I'll try to type something out with like my knuckle because there's just something that I have to say. And I'll type something out that I completely did not mean to say, and then everyone in chat and the streamer is like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And it's kind of funny, not gonna lie. But that's beside the point. Something that I do, but not as often, is watch TV when I'm making stuff. Usually, this is when I'm near the end of a project and all I have to do is sewing, and then I'll do that. I'll finish off the edges later because that involves sandpaper and being messy, but I will set myself up so that I have just all my projects around me, and I'll come upstairs into my bedroom where my TV is and just sit down and binge the hell out of some TV show. I have these become like core memories somehow. I remember trying to finish this person I was making while I was watching like the entirety of Mythic Quest, so those two things are always linked now. When I was finishing up my Eris cosplay, I was watching H2O Just Add Water, which yes, I'm an adult and I watched that for the first time as an adult, and I don't care. Mermaids are cool. A thing that I have been doing recently, though, is not having anything on, just making in silence. And the reason for this is that I found it useful to try to teach my brain to calm itself down. I'm someone who is an overthinker with a lot of anxiety, and I found it useful to have something for my hands to do that is something I love doing while I can just sit and think things through in a not obsessive way. And the reason for this, I think, is how involved I get when I make things. So, for example, when I'm making something out of leather, well, the material is expensive, and so I want to be very careful not to be wasteful. So a lot of the times I'm going a lot slower than I think I need to be going in order to not make any mistakes. And somehow slowing my hands down and just really focusing on what I'm doing is helpful for slowing my brain down. And I'm able to look at things more reasonably. I found that it's a convenient time to practice some of my wise mind skills, which is a thing that I've been learning in dialectical behavioral therapy, which is super useful. Wise mind is the combination of emotion mind, which is just when your emotions take over, and reasonable mind, which is when logic takes over, and the goal is to join those together to be a healthy wise mind. And I, even though wise mind is very useful for me, most of the time I'm in emotion mind. So I try to practice some wise mind skills, and lately it's been really surprising how peaceful it's been doing that. That and a mood stabilizer. Ew. One of the skills that I've been practicing is just called observe, and as the name suggests, it's all about observing things, physical things in front of you. So it's a really convenient time to use this, especially because when I make things, I'm like all about texture. So when I make my leather things, I have like stamps that I put on it. I tool things into it, and then I can like run my fingers along it, and it makes my brain happy. So for observe, this sounds silly, but just once you try it out, it doesn't work for everyone. I'm not promising anything, but when you try it out, it can be really satisfying sometimes. So you would ask yourself, how does it look? So I'm gonna use my owl dice tray that I made for someone as my example. How does it look? Okay, so it's got this really beautiful kind of cyan blue paint with a like gold slash bronze owl tooled into it, and the stitching, I was really proud of the stitching. It's very straight. So like just kind of do that type of thing. The point of this exercise is to just bring you into the moment. You can look at it and see the things, but you can look at it and obviously you can see the thing without having to describe it. But for describing it, it can bring you out of anxious thoughts that you're having and keeps you grounded. And it's very useful. To me, it is, and to a lot of people, it might not be for you. That's fine. But so, going along the list of questions for observe, does it look smooth? Does it have edges or is it round? So, in my case, I can look at how the edges of the inlay, I'm very happy how slightly rounded it is. It's not overly dramatic in the corners, but it is not just a square. And I can think of how much of improvement that is because when I first started, it would just be a square. For my Eris jacket that I made, I love it so much, but I do wish that I had rounded off some of the patches. And if I did it differently today, that's one of the improvements I would make on it. And when I'm doing this exercise, I don't feel bad about that, which is an improvement for me. It's appreciating how far I've gone instead of feeling bad about how I wasn't good before because I'm always trying to get better at it. So this is a thing that I don't think anyone is ever going to be perfect at. There's always going to be more things to learn, and for people who think that they don't have things to learn, I think they're kind of just egotistical and they're wrong. So the next step in observing is actually feeling it. So you can pick it up. Is it a heavy thing? Is it light? Does it, how does the texture feel when you brush over it with just your fingertips? So, like I said before, when I'm tooling things, I am brushing over them constantly because I love how it feels. I always make sure to wash my hands because I don't want to get my oily hand grease all over the leather. It's not good for it. But it just feels so nice. And I'll be stamping, so I'll be like putting a pattern in it, and then I just feel it. And I'm like, oh. I ask myself if I'm giving it to someone, are they going to notice all these little details I put into it? Not that it's bad if they don't, because the little details often, I think that people see it as a higher quality item, even if they can't point out the little details. So it is what it is. Um, Does the object make any sound or is it silent? Which is very funny for me because I can't think of many things that what I'm making makes sound. But this is obviously not geared towards crafting specifically. This is anything. So you could do this with your, I don't know why Game Boy Advance SP came to my mind, but that's what it is. Oh my god, honestly, that would be a perfect one to do because you turn it on and you hear that classic little ding. Ooh, perfect. Does it have any smell to it? My whole craft room smells like leather, which I love, and so it smells fantastic. But sometimes I work with really stinky things like glue. The other day, I used it way more than I usually do, and I accidentally made the whole house stinky, so whoops. I've learned my lesson and I'm about to buy an exhaust fan for the window. Mindful breathing is a huge thing with Wise Mind. I don't necessarily find it helpful. The kind of breathing I do is I call it somatic breathing, and I don't know if that's exactly right, but I will breathe with my hands when I'm like trying to calm down. But there's this one podcast I listen to that's called DBT and Me, and I'll link that in case anyone's interested. But at the end of every episode, they do this just like mindful breathing slash full body scan thing where they don't want you to change your breathing, they just want you to notice it. Which, like, again, that probably doesn't sound helpful to people who haven't done it or have done it but didn't like it, I guess. But it's helpful for me to be grounded. It's helpful to me to ground myself, and it's good to practice these things even when you're not necessarily like needing them, but more of just like to maintain. I think I'm gonna make the episodes a little bit shorter than I have. They've been about 20 minutes. I think I'm gonna make them more like 10 to 15 minutes. I think that's a more comfortable time for me to make them. So this one is a little bit shorter than the first few were, but I think we're gonna call it there. If you want to get in touch with me, you can join me on our Discord, which is in the episode description. My email is fox@glitterfoxmedia.com. On the website, there's a form to fill out if you want a guest on the show. I'm always looking for more guests. I think those episodes are a lot of fun. And you can just fill out like why you want to be on the podcast. So like if you have your specific thing to talk about, what is it? So far I've had Liz on talking about her ADHD. I have Guinness Porvita coming on to talk about rug tufting and spray paint art, which is both of those were really fun conversations. And the website is lazyfoxcreates.com, and you can find the form there under get in touch. I hope you have enjoyed this episode like I've enjoyed making it. I love you all. Go out and make something.